What is going on, my beautiful LARPers and LARPettes? Today we're going to go over the Henry Model X. This one is chambered in 4570, and we're going to go over all the upgrades I put on this guy as well. So when I was a little kid, I was always into lever actions. I had my first lever action, if you want to call it that, was a little Rough Rider BB gun, you know, the ones that you crank and shoots a BB out. Used to kill so many cans with that. Then as I got older, my parents bought me a Henry or a Marlin little 22. And I think when I was around 18 or so, I had a old Rossi lever action. And then I started to phase those out because I was getting into AR-15s and all the other tactical type guns. Then fast forward to now, lever actions have become the new hotness, apparently. I see them all over the place now. I don't know who started this new trend of tactical lever actions. I think the first video I saw was Chris Costa and one of his all decked out lever actions, and I was like, holy crap, I've never really sat and wanted to get back into lever actions, but building one similar to this, like he did. But full disclosure, guys, Henry did send me this Model X to show off on my Instagram channel, and they didn't really tell me to make a YouTube video, so I just wanted to go ahead and make it because I get a lot of questions on my Instagram about how this build is and how it turned out and how I like it. And instead of always talking to you guys on Instagram, might as well make you guys a YouTube video for it. So let's talk about the upgrades, shall we? This Henry is fully decked out in Ranger Point Precision products from tip to butt, all Ranger Point, nothing else. So I want to go ahead and start with the muzzle brake here. This is the Comet muzzle brake. This muzzle brake does work extremely well. When I first shot this one, I went out, shot like 20 rounds or so without the muzzle brake. It was all stock and it was brutal on my shoulder. My shoulder was bruised and it felt pretty bad. When I went out this last time and shot this, it shot extremely well. It's still not soft by any means, but it doesn't bruise my shoulder like it did when it was stock. And on the topic of this brake, it is threaded in 5/8 by 24, so if you're going to slap a suppressor on there, you can go right ahead. Now moving on back, you do have your front fiber optic there and your rear sight with red fiber optic, so you have two different colors, so green, red. Now moving on down, you do have this long mag tube. On the website, when I looked at this model, it says that it holds 4 rounds, but this tube holds 5. So if you fill this tube up, it's 5. Then you could put an extra round in the chamber, which is 6. So 6 rounds of 4570 total. I don't know if that was a mistake on the website. Now the rail. The rail is the Gen 2 Ranger Point Precision M-LOK rail. It has M-LOK slots all the way down. You have 2 QD attachment points here, and you could accessorize it with whatever you want, a flashlight, lasers. Now if you look underneath on this rail, there's a cutout here for the load port. I believe the first gens didn't have that cutout for the load port, so you can load your rounds through here. They do have a version of this Gen 2 without that cutout if you don't want it, and you could just load them up from the front, but it's cool to have those options. Now moving on back, I went ahead and put this quiver that holds 6 rounds of extra 4570. It holds them on super tight, but sometimes it's a little too tight where it's hard to pull those out. But while I'm out there, I sometimes just rub my fingers, a little bit of oil from my nose, rub that on the round, and it makes it a little bit easier to pull in and out. But if you are gonna take this like backpacking or something like that, I would suggest probably leaving them where they're tight so they're not gonna fall out on you. Now I just wanna point something out with the rail. It is a little bit difficult to put on. You do have to do a little bit of hammering and no fitment, no grinding, but it's a tedious process. I believe there's a video on YouTube explaining in detail on how to put this rail on. I would just take your time if you're going to do it yourself, or give it to a gunsmith so they can do it. Just take that into consideration if you're going to buy this rail, that there's going to be some tedious work to be done to put that on there. But once it's on there, it's super solid, not going anywhere. Also, now that we're on this first quiver here, let's talk about reloads when this gun runs dry. Because apparently reload, for an emergency reload I guess, is all the rage right now on Instagram on the correct way of loading. And this isn't a dig at a buddy of mine. My buddy Roger from QVO Tactical, he had a video out of him loading a round into the chamber, just dropping it in there, then racking it in, but it would jam up on him. And a bunch of people on the Henry Instagram lost their shit because he wasn't loading from here, he was loading from the side gate. Then I go and post a video and load from the chamber. So let me address how that turned out. And again, not a dig at Roger. He's a great dude. And I'll get to the point of this after I'm done talking to the reload. So Roger, if you're watching, don't get mad. I'm gonna explain it. Okay, so when you go dry and you're gonna load from the chamber here, you have to kind of do it a different way. You can't really do it like a shotgun where you can just drop those in, because there's nothing that helps feed that into the tube, right? It's just a free floating round in there, and you kind of gotta hope that it falls in place and racks at the same time. And 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, it's gonna jam up on you once you put that in there. So I have videos that I'll show right now. And I'm loading them every time through that way. So a lot of people saw my video and kind of try to go and shit on Roger and saying that, see, you can do it, but there was no explanation on how I did it. And Roger did point out that he tried to do it, but he was having difficulty. So when I talked to Roger, I told him there's a specific way of me doing it, but it's a little bit more difficult than the way he was doing. So when you're loading from the chamber here, what I do is once I run dry, I rack it out, leave it open, I bring the buttstock over my shoulder. Once I bring it over my shoulder, and you've seen this with people doing competition shooters where they're kind of taking off their belt and they're loading from here, right? Because they can see everything better right here. So I kind of do the same thing. So what I do is I come from my quiver up front, because it's a little bit difficult to get it from the back here and pull out because I'm hitting my chin. I get it from the front. Once I have that out, the tip of the round I am feeding directly, and I don't want to do this with live ammo, so I'm going to do it with a empty casing. I'm feeding that round directly into that barrel, the tube, the chamber, whatever you want to call that, the actual hole of the barrel I am feeding that round into. Once I see the tip in that hole, I let go, the round falls in, and I'm able to rack that round in. If you do not feed the round into that hole and you just drop that round in there, it's not gonna line up right and it's gonna jam up on you, especially with this flat tip ammo that you have with 4570. But here's the thing, guys, when you're doing that. I did it a bunch of times on video just because I wanted to, because I feel it looks cooler and it's a little bit faster than the way Roger was doing it. But I don't think this gun is specifically made to be loaded that way. The reason being is because this extractor isn't like your typical Glock extractor where you can beat it to crap and then just pop in a new one whenever you want to. This one here is like a wire, it's bendable. So in my brain, what that's telling me is that if I were to keep that up over a long period of time, I'm going to wear out that extractor faster than normal, because what it's doing is the rim of the case, right, is lifted up higher than, say, like a 9mm round where everything's flush and stuff, but it's lifted up higher for this specific round. So say this hook right here is the extractor and this other hook here is the round, right? So when I put the round in, the round's free floating, the extractor comes, lifts up over the round, then hooks in, right? So when I'm doing that, when I'm putting that round in there, and I'm dropping that round in, I have to slam this lever down pretty hard so that way that extractor can bump up over that shell casing. And I feel with a long period of time me doing that, I'm gonna ruin the extractor and I'm gonna have to replace it. And you don't wanna do that, right? The only reason I'm doing it is because, again, they sent me this gun for free, and I like to just go out and beat guns up and see what they're capable of doing. But so far, within those 140 rounds that I did, maybe half of them were kind of like that, because I was just messing with 1-round reloads. And I don't have any extraction issues whatsoever on this guy here. So all that is telling me is that this is a very reliable gun so far, because I am improperly loading that round into the chamber there. So for you guys that are shitting on Roger, he is actually doing it the correct way, because he is not breaking any part on here like I would be breaking. So Roger, you win. If you're gonna load it from there, I would say if it's an absolute emergency where you have to do it as fast as you can, just go ahead, pull that out, look, in. Once it drops in, let gravity do the work. Again, you want that barrel pointing down where gravity's gonna do the work, and load that guy in there. Because if you have it here and you're trying to load it here, it's gonna float around in there and it's gonna jam up on you. Hopefully you can get it done fast enough where a bear's charging at you and you can get that round in there. But I think I'd be running my ass up a tree. Well, they could climb trees. If a bear's chasing you, you're pretty much screwed, right? Yeah, you're screwed. Now moving on back again, we do have the Rhino rail that you can add an optic. I was running this little Primary Arms RS10, or you can add a LVPO right on top of that guy. But I want to point out something on an LVPO on a lever action with a quiver on the side. They do get in the way of pulling those rounds out. So once this optic is on there, you're gonna have some difficulty yanking the first maybe 3 out of there, because whatever mount you're using on your optic is going to get in the way of yanking those out. So you'd have to either run a red dot, or if you're gonna run one of these, you can run that a little bit forward, this quiver, you can move it up a slot, or just finesse your way out of there. You can still take them out, but like I said, it will knock it if you're trying to take them out fast enough. Now the whole action is stock. I didn't do anything to it, but I am probably put a lighter trigger and smoothing up the action a little bit. Maybe change a couple things here to just make it run a little smoother. Not saying that it's not smooth right now, just saying that I want this thing to run like super smooth. Now the stock. Now this stock really sets off the whole tacticalness of this lever action, right? So this stock consists of about 4 different parts from Ranger Point. So if you buy the stock by itself, it does not come with this quiver, it does not come with this cheek riser, and it does not come with the mount for the quiver. So when you do buy it, that's 3 different accessories that you have to buy for this stock itself to make it exactly how I have it here. This stock is adjustable. You have 2 bolts on this side that you will loosen up, and you could adjust it up and down. The reason why I recommend this cheek riser is because if you're gonna run a quiver on this side, if you don't have that cheek riser, the rounds would kind of dig into your cheek, depending how much you dig into the stock when you're getting a good cheek weld on there. And you do have this very nice rubber padding. I feel like this rubber padding along with that brake worked wonders in terms of taming the recoil. Now getting away from the accessories, let's talk about the Henry itself. Super accurate gun. I took this out to 200, 300 yards and I was drilling everything with no problems whatsoever. But in terms of practicality, I don't think 4570 is the best caliber to have for someone in my situation. I don't live in the woods. There's no bears after me. There's no big cats. There's nothing there that I would need around this big specifically. If I'm going to use this in the house, I probably wouldn't even use this guy for self-defense, just because I'm afraid of these over penetrating, and I got kids, and it's just a really gnarly round. Now if you are in those spots that have bears and big cats or something that's gonna tear your ass up, if you're not fully equipped to take it down with something of this caliber or similar, yeah, go ahead and pick yourself up something like this, because so far I have 0 malfunctions out of this guy. I shot close to 140 rounds or something like that, because every time I buy packs of these guys, the 4570 rounds, they come in packs of 20, so I feel like I have 140 rounds at this point in time. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video of the Henry Model X. A lot of you guys have been interested in this build setup, and I know a lot of you are seeing the trend of these lever actions, which I think is pretty cool that a lot of people are getting into these. These are kind of a little outdated, but they are super fun. Did a lot of fun stuff around my vehicle with it, and yeah, you're slower than the AR-15, but if you're in a state where you cannot have cool guns like that, this is a very capable gun as long as you train with it. Hopefully this sparks some interest for you guys. Super fun. slap your optic on there, get out to the range. Don't shoot all your 45-70 like I did, because this is probably like my last batch until I go buy some more for $2 a round. So again, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed. Love you all. Catch you in the next one.